I was waiting for somebody to bring up Leviticus 18:22. And I was waiting for somebody to bring up the King James Version. Trust me, you want to wait till the end of this video to talk about the King James Version of the Bible. But first, let's get past the boring part, Leviticus 18:22. As you can see, the comment includes the verse, "Thou shalt not lie with mankind, as with womankind, it is an abomination." Now that definitely sounds like a very direct condemnation of homosexuality. So now let's look at the real context of Leviticus 18 and figure out what it really means. First things first, verse 6 says no one is to approach any close relative to have sex with them. And that sets the standard for the whole rest of the chapter. It's talking about incest. You can't have sex with your father's wife, your sister, your daughter's daughter, your son's daughter, your father's sister, your sister's sister. Is talking about incest. And then all of a sudden in verse 22, he just talks about men having sex with men. Nothing to do with incest. That seems oddly out of place. That's because in the original Hebrew text, it uses this word here that I can't pronounce because I don't speak Hebrew. But this word only appears in two different contexts in the Bible, in Leviticus and in Genesis. And in both contexts, it's surrounded by context talking about incest. And so when you do an actual linguistic breakdown of what that word means, especially in conjunction with the prepositions around it, you'll find out it's actually talking about incestuous male-male grape, not consensual same-sex relationships. Sorry to burst your homophobic bubble. Now let's get to the fun part. Let's talk about King James. And why is this so important? Because where I come from and all across the country, you'll hear people say, if it ain't the King James Version, I don't want to read it. You got these people with the NIV and the ESV and the NRSV and the ABCD. You know what I mean? If it ain't the KJV, I don't want it. My whole life I heard the King James Version, the only version of the Bible you can trust, boy. Okay, then, I guess it's time to talk about how King James was a homosexual. Man, you homophobes are not going to like this. In the summer of 1614, King James met a man named George Villiers, who he nicknamed Steenie. Why did he nickname him Steenie? Because it was short for St. Stephen's. And according to the Bible, St. Stephen's had the face of an angel. King James fell instantly in love with George, or Steenie. The next summer, he knighted him, and they spent a few days in Farnham Castle. Later, George would write in a letter to King James, "Whether you love me now better than at the time which I shall never forget at Farnham, where the bed's head could not be found between the master and his dog." He's referring to King James as the master and himself as the dog, and the bed's head could not be found between them because they were having homosexual sex. King James and George stayed together for many, many years, and the two were notorious for kissing and caressing each other in public. So the King James Bible was commissioned by King James, a homosexual, and consensual homosexual sex is never prohibited.